Well, a little happy birthday tonight as Reverend Al Sharpton is ringing in his 60th birthday with a major bash. Now, Sharpton's party at the Four Seasons restaurant being called a party for a cause. Tickets going up to $2,500 a piece, and the money all going towards Sharpton's National Action Network. Don't laugh, Dominic. The guest list includes a list of stars like Aretha, Spike Lee, lawmakers, Charlie Rangel, Senator Chuck Schumer. Trust me, they don't mind being seen at these events nowadays. I want to rewind, though, 20 years ago, when stars like Aretha Franklin may have been a little hesitant to show up at a birthday party. I know Chuck Schumer would have been, to be thrown for one of Al Sharpton's. Political influence has certainly changed over the years, as has the wardrobe and the figure. Sharpton has come a long way from the Crown Heights riots and the Tawana Brawley case, which, by the way, he never apologized for. Now, he is sitting alongside the mayor and the police commissioner of New York City at press conferences, something I'm sure Mr. Bratton loved, and he's even had some influence over who Mayor de Blasio keeps in his administration. You want evidence? Rachel Nordlinger, who's chief of staff to First Lady Charlene McCray, is coming under intense fire over derogatory comments made not just by her boyfriend, who's a convicted felon, but also her son. Both have made very disparaging remarks, stuff I can't say on TV about the police. And Nordlinger's son tweeted racist comments about whites, saying, "I'm convinced all white people are the devil." Yet Sharpton, he's come to her defense, and Mayor de Blasio basically says, that's good enough for me. However, de Blasio didn't seem to think twice when he fired Ms. Smith here, Liz Smith, for dating, well, one Elliot Spitzer. Let me bring in Dominic Carter, journalist, author, and so much more for this.
Thank you, Richard.
If I told you, Dom, in the early 90s, Reverend Sharpton's going to have a party at the Four Seasons, and politicians be fighting over themselves to show up for it, and writing checks for that same Action Network, whatever, would you believe me?
Yes.
Get out of here.
I really would have.
How?
I really would. Okay.
He was radioactive back then.
He was definitely radioactive, but that was then, and this is now. I go back covering Reverend Sharpton some 30 years. And I would be sent to get a soundbite, if you will, from him. This is when his entire operation was his apartment in downtown Brooklyn. Little apartment, but you knew back then, now controversial, don't get me wrong, extremely polarizing still to some, but you knew back then that he was very dynamic. I have never met someone who's quicker on their feet and who's as witty and has the personality and is charming. Those are all things that play very well in the media. And so I would have answered yes.
I'm with you,
I would have
but
answered yes.
In the early 90s, when you had the medallions and the jumpsuits, right? And as Chris Rock said, the pimp hair going, right? And again, and I'm sorry, I still can't get past, because I covered this up in Poughkeepsie when the trials was going on, what he did to Stephen Pagonis and the folks who were attached with the Tawana Brawley travesty, right? And still never apologized and paid for it in pennies, right? Remember when the defamation suit came on down? How that guy has turned into, let's face it, he's probably got more audiences with President Obama than just about anybody, one-on-one in the White House. He's the go-to guy on every major civil rights cases. Forget about that he funnels them to attorneys here. Everybody's waiting for him to speak. He calmed down Staten Island, right? I mean, it is amazing, fair is fair, that he's got his own show on cable news every night. I just, maybe you saw it coming, but when did that transformation happen? When it went legit?
I'm glad that you asked that question. I really believe, and I know him very well, I really believe it was when he was stabbed. And I remember very well, that was, he was doing the protest into Bensonhurst, New York, extremely controversial, predominantly white community, and here comes Al Sharpton and about 500 black people marching down the middle of the street on Saturdays consistently. This was about the Yusuf Hawkins case. And I would say to him privately, Reverend, I know you don't take a lot of this stuff careful, but you better be real careful with your security. And he would laugh at me and so on because he didn't have security at the time. This was one march that I was not on with him. And next thing you know, it was all over the radio leading the newscast that he had just been stabbed. in his chest. And I'll never forget, Richard, it was me and Mike McAlary, who is now deceased, a legendary columnist for the New York Daily News. We were the only ones that got to see him in the hospital. There were, I mean, in terms of journalists, there were tubes everywhere. His wife was crying. And that was a transformational, if you will, moment for him, in which I think in his mind, he said he was going to go from what he was into the political arena. And the moment he was released from the hospital, it just seemed like he had changed. He still has a stabbing scar in his chest.
And you know what? I think for a lot of people, maybe nationally weren't as familiar with him when he ran for president. Of course, he never had a chance of winning. But he came across as one of the most credible people on that stage. And there was one debate where people said he probably did better than anybody else. And I think that gave him that air of credibility in some quarters that he never had before.
No doubt about it. You're 1,000% correct. When he went on that stage with Biden and others and showed that he could hold his own and showed the American people, I mean, everyone knew he was never going to be elected president, but he was able to articulate the issues of urban America. And to those that are not fans of Mr. Sharpton, I give you this test. Try and sit him down and try and nail him to the wall on any issue.
Oh, I've tried.
And good luck with that.
And I even had, this is on the Pagonis case with the Tawana Brawley. And I've never seen somebody who could maneuver. First of all, he always shows up half an hour late for everything. But when he got there, you know, that he could do that. And then by the end, you tipped your hat to say he can verbally tap dance as well as
Richard,
anybody.
let me say this quickly.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton called him this afternoon to wish him a happy birthday because she couldn't be
Can
there.
you imagine that?
And guess who's going to be at the party tonight? Somebody who he doesn't get along with publicly, Governor Andrew Cuomo. It's an election year. Sharpton delivers the black vote. Period. Cuomo's going to be there.
Amazing. Dominic, as always, thank you very much. There's so much more I want to get to, but we'll get into tomorrow night in the politics segment. But when we come back, we will switch gears here. We're going to bring our legal panel some shocking new developments surrounding brain injury research as it pertains to the NFL. After the break, we'll speak to an attorney who has done extensive work with traumatic brain injury cases. He'll join our team of lawyers to weigh in.